Welcome to SAM Conversation, an online program of South Asia Monitor. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting book called Cavalier's Tale, Memoir of a Soldier's General by Lieutenant General Rajan Bakshi, who was commissioned into the Pune Horse. And what is unique about his career is that he was the GOC in Sea Central Command, but the only armored corps officer to have served and to have commanded the 14th Corps, which covers not only China but Pakistan also. And in the 22 years since the Corps was raised, he is the first armored corps officer under the formation there. And what is significant is that thanks to the Communist Party of China's and the People's Liberation Army's all kinds of plans and what have you, we have about almost, well, I won't go into figures, but we have sufficient number of armored regiments in the highest of altitudes and coldest of altitudes of the world. For the Western world, mountains meant up to 8,000 feet. The example of the Alps. In 1947, the Indian Army redefined mountain warfare by sending a regiment of Stuart tanks, the 7th Light Cavalry, to Zojila at 14,000 feet. They were transported by dismantling the tanks and taking them up on wheeled vehicles. The turrets were removed from the hull. They were all transported on wheeled vehicles. And finally, when they got deployed in Zojila, the BM of the Armored Brigade, BM of the Pakistani Brigade, which was facing 7th Cavalry, tells his brigade commander, "Sir, there are some tanks around." So the brigade commander asked the brigade major, "I think you're suffering from battlefield fever." Well, the brigade commander was soon shocked himself. The rest is history. Later came a stage when we were able to transport tanks to high altitude without dismantling them and taking them by aircraft. Anyway, the Cavalier's Take, Memoir of a Soldier's General, is a delightful book put out by Lieutenant General Rajan Bakshi. It has a lot of very interesting anecdotes of a soldier's life, tank soldier's life. But what is the most, I'll say, capturing chapter is the section. There are sections. The sections are real life stories from Ladakh, personality-based narratives, humor in uniform, of which there is no depth, absolutely no dearth of in the army, the laudable effort, and matters military. In matters military, the chapters are catching up with the dragon, time to match Chinese aggression, not to be timid, the unending Chinese adventure in Ladakh, human resource management for high altitude areas in the Indian Army, Central Sector and the Dev Bhumi bordering China, Make in India and Atmanirbharta in defense. Barring the last one, all others pertain to deployment of tanks in the highest of altitudes and coldest of regions in the world. And I will not dwell much more. I'll hand you over to General Bakshi. Rajan, all yours.
Thank you so very much, sir. A delightful introduction, for which I thank you very much. It is a different world when you think about Ladakh, whether with mechanized forces or otherwise. Ladies and gentlemen, Ladakh is unique for us because it's only one corps in the entire Indian Army, for 14 corps, which has borders with China as well as Pakistan. When you see on the west, that is Western Ladakh, moment you cross Zojila Pass, the actually large pass, cross Zojila, you have Mashko, you have Dras, you have Tiger Hill, you have Kargil, Batalik. These the nation saw during the Kargil operations in 1999. And then when you come to Eastern Ladakh, we have 826 kilometers of border, LAC, with China. And between these two lies the highest battlefield in the world, the Siachen Glacier, with heights occupied by the Great Indian Army up to 21,000 feet. No mean feat, because the oxygen content in those heights not just want you to fight for your survival, it is to survive and then fight the enemy. In Eastern Ladakh, we share the LAC with China, a distance of 826 kilometers, starting in the north from the Karakoram Pass. And in between these two lies the Siachen Glacier, which I've already spoken about. Now, focusing ourselves towards the Eastern Ladakh region. Ladies and gentlemen, in the north lies the Karakoram Pass at approximately 17,000 feet. As you come southwards from Karakoram Pass is the Debsang Bulge, in where the famous place of Daulat Beg Oldi, DBO, is located. I want to tell you in very brief, the Debsang Bulge is a high altitude plateau with heights ranging over 16,000 feet. It has rocky outcrops, hills, mountains of sorts, rivers which are not that large, smaller streams, and more importantly, inter-dominating feature gaps. And this area is conducive for the employment of mechanized forces in large numbers. No wonder the Chinese had brought in a mechanized division and a motorized division as well, in addition to other arms and services. So that is Debsang Bulge. And right behind this, on the western side, is the path which goes from Morgo, an axis, Morgo to Sasoma, over the Karakoram Pass. Sasoma is in the Nubra Valley, and that takes you on toward Nubra River and the Siachen Glacier. So if they reach the area, so the vitality of this area is to deny the axis which can cut you off and cut off Siachen if the intentions are such. Now, area south of the Debsang Bulge till the northern end of Pangang Tso Lake is an area which is interspersed with small valleys which run nalas in them. Nalas like Raki Nala, Galwan, and others. And they flow into the Shiok River. Shiok River goes further southwestwards, joins up with Nubra River, and flows into the Indus in Pakistan. Now, this area north has also been exploited with the famous Galwan incident. The area north of Pangang Tso Lake is well known to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we had lost an area to the Chinese, which is far to the south of the 5 fingers that we're talking about, the 8 fingers that we're talking about. Shri Jap, we lost to them in 1962 ops, which is further south to where these fingers commence. And now they are coming northwards and claiming areas till finger 5, finger 3. So that is what our loss is. Coming on to the area of Trishul. Trishul lies to the south, to the west, to the west of Pangang Tso. Right in front of it, towards the east, in front of Trishul, the high ground, the vital ground, are features like Magar Hill, Gurung Hill. In between is what is called the Spengur Gap. And behind this gap is the Spengur Lake. And this is the area which is general area of Kailash range as well, which our tanks had gone and occupied and later came back. Trishul is a vital area because the axes open up towards depth sectors, toward the Shiok Valley, towards Leh, across Changla. That's the vitality of this, the vital area. Area towards further south, between Trishul and Dungti, is not an area for classical mountain mechanized operations. However, conducive to the employment of tanks with not much of maneuver. Now, gentlemen, Dungti is a gap, is a mountainous gap through which flows the Indus westwards towards Leh. Now, when we talk of Dungti and go further southwards, you reach the areas of Phukche and Demchok. Demchok is the place where River Indus enters India from China. After having emanated from area north of the Mansarovar and the holy shrine to the north. This area is the Indus Valley. Indus Valley has the potential for employment of mechanized forces. However, with less of maneuver involved. It will be a vitality for defensive operations. Now that I've explained the basis and the very basic of the terrain, which you all must understand, I will tell you that great deal of camaraderie existed between our forward elements, our battalions and our companies, and the Chinese BDR. If you requested them to come to the hut, they would come. We have requested them at times to come at midnight to the BPM hut for coffee, and they have. The request they had been always honoring. However, in 2013 occurred a 3-week standoff at Raki Nala, an area 16,000 feet in height, and we held on. And we saw how our Ladakh scout troops were far, far superior in physical, mental, and emotional health. we were extremely proud. We still remain extremely proud for soldiers there. The Chinese were falling sick. People were getting replaced every now and then.
I thought, let me give just a few small visuals of the speedy disengagement from Kailash Range by the armor.
All right, sir, is that the Kailash Range you're referring to?
Disengagement from Pangong Tso in February 2021.
Yes, this is the one which we came down from the Kailash Range, Pangong Tso area. That is absolutely right.
Exactly.
And I would like to highlight here, as
and this is
so nicely brought
my
out.
recent book. This is from my recent book.
Absolutely, so proud,
China,
sir.
Bloody Bulletless Borders.
Yes, sir, so proud. And I don't know, the powers in being decided to pull back armor. When we were there at the Kailash Range, we were dominating the Spangur and the Spangur Gap. The main concentration area of the Chinese is right below the range that we were dominating, that we had held. That is the same area where the bridging of the Pangong Tso has been done now. They wouldn't have been able to do all that had we remained there. In return, they have not yet honored. They're not even discussing the withdrawal or reduction of troops from Depsang. That is all. But we have come back. Now, that keeps happening, in diplomatic world. So I'm sure there must have been great reasons behind it. But operationally, the ramifications are what I'm trying to enumerate. All right. Now, one more issue that I'd like to highlight is, unlike we who had defenses along the LAC, our perceived line, not our perceived line, but the existing line, the line of actual control today. We have defenses, we have bunkers, we have sangars. But the Chinese never had any defenses any earlier than 2020. It was only camps all along the frontage of the LAC at different locations from where they sent out patrolling parties. They came out for patrolling and back to the camp. So today, when we are reporting defenses being constructed, when we are reporting forward airfields being made and defensive infrastructure being created in strength, it's no surprise. Why is it no surprise? It's no surprise because, unfortunately, we didn't gather their momentum in mobilization and their intentions in time to deny them in reaching the 1959 Chinese claim line. They have reached the 1959 claim line. And they also realized that if they withdraw, go back, like hell, we will let them come back to the same line ever again. They will have to fight for it. This time, they didn't have to fight. They could occupy that line. So once they've occupied that line, they will never go back. And they will entrench themselves. They would like to have the LSE converted into LC, where they will not let you...
Could you explain that, please? If they would like the line of actual control converted into
LC,
regular
line of
boundary.
control. So the difference lies that within LOC, we occupy every area which is of significance with the overall aim of denying the enemy to even come in inch into our territory. We deny. So therefore, we hold such places in strength. The Chinese had not been holding in any place in strength because they had no deployment of regular forces. They were the border regiment which were occupying areas in camps, and they used to come for patrolling. Now that they have achieved that line of 1959 claim line, they would not like anything to go away. Therefore, you would appreciate by having 50,000 troops in eastern Ladakh on both sides is no mean feat. A lack of troops in that area. So 50,000 troops on the Chinese side will ensure they don't lose any ground. That is what it is. Earlier, it was not so. Now, we, in some way, could not detect the Chinese movements. Ladies and gentlemen, they had to move, these formations had to move to the tune of 1,200 to 1,500 kilometers from their respective permanent locations to come to these areas. Come to these areas means their western highway, NH219, in the area in the Galwan sector, not Galwan sector, but in Akshay Chin, is approximately towards the north is approximately 250 kilometers till DBO. Movement east to west, 250 kilometers in the area that I explained to you, where they got dominating features, the hill features, rocky outcrop, streams, inter-dominating area gaps, where they have brought tremendous amount of force, 250 kilometers from that road. And unfortunately, they could reach where they have reached. We need to ensure space-based, satellite-based, ground vectors-based, whatever means the aerial reconnaissance, we must be able to monitor all their moves before they do deployment. And in addition to that, when we get this early morning, our own mobilization and deployment in the requisite areas will be facilitated accordingly. Colonel Bhatt had explained to you the background of the tanks which had come into Ladakh in earlier years. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2012, we inducted a T-72 armored regiment into Ladakh on tracks along the same route where the Stuart tanks had crossed Zojila Pass. The width of the T-72 tank is far more than the Stuart tanks, which meant that such high level of precision driving was undertaken by our drivers, because one side, come the other side of the hill, the drop was more than a couple of 100 feet. And the tracks were right on the edge because the tank is broad. It was done by the great Indian Army and the great Indian Armored Corps. We could make good use of these tanks. And today, in consonance with the numerical strength of Chinese tanks,
General Bakshi, I must thank you. I must thank you for a very, very valuable amount of inputs that you gave us on the deployment of Indian Army's tanks in Ladakh, Eastern Ladakh. And as you ended, you also reminded us what all it takes to keep tanks running there. It's not easy, and well, all we can say is that we wish our tank crews there all the best. As my regiment's motto goes, "Tayar bar tayar," and I'm sure, God forbid, if push comes to shove, they will give the enemy a bloody nose. Thank you very much, General Bakshi. It was a pleasure having you on our conversation.
Thank you very much, sir. Indeed, very, very kind of you. God bless and Jai Hind.